Okay, so welcome to our webinar, and today's title is The Trials of a Data Manager in the New Norm, or is it still the same? I had a lot of time to think about what I was going to do for this presentation, actually 3 months on all the experience that I've been going through, and I just thought I'd just maybe share what I've been through in the last 3 months. And before I need to do that, there's maybe some new people on the line who actually would like to be introduced to actually who I am and how I got to where I am at the moment in my career. So the first slide is obviously, who am I? Some of you do know me. Some of you know my career path has been quite strange because actually in 1979, I actually joined the Merchant Navy. Now that picture is actually of me, but it's not of me in the Merchant Navy uniform because we didn't get one, and there's a reason behind that. This is me in my Sea Cadet uniform, and there's a reason for this. I was in the Sea Cadets from the age of 11, and I wanted to go to sea, and the Royal Navy wouldn't take women, so I joined the Merchant Navy because then I would be a radio officer and be able to go to sea. I did not want to be a data manager. I wanted to be a radio officer and do electronic engineering. I did that, but when I qualified, there were no jobs in the Merchant Navy for radio officers because I think the valves had gone to transistors and it was a lot easier. So in 1984, when I'd qualified, I actually got an interview with an oil company called BP, who I only knew from the fact that they had petrol stations. And they gave me an interview, and it was in Aberdeen, and they were curious to meet me because I was female. And they asked me some questions in my interview about how much I knew about computers, and I said, I know them inside out. What I didn't explain is the fact I could take one apart, fix it, but I actually didn't know how to do any programming or anything. Within a week, I got the job, and within a week, I was doing what they needed me to do, although the computers were pretty basic then. In the meantime, following on from the Merchant Navy, I did have a penchant for actually joining the forces, so I ended up joining the Territorial Army. Yes, that is me. People doubt it, but it can be proven. So beware, I do these things in the uniform. But after 15 years in BP only, I joined the IT industry. I took voluntary redundancy. When there was a big downturn, I took the voluntary redundancy, joined the IT industry, became an IT consultant. And it was the Millennium Bug. A lot of companies had to do hardware and software replacements, and I basically project manage those as a consultant. I had 2 kids. In between all that, and actually after 7 years of being a mother, I'd had enough of that. Don't tell my children. And I rejoined the energy industry. I'm now calling it the energy industry because obviously maybe it's much better to call it that. And I started off at CNR in seismic data, and then moved to Venture, who got taken over by Centrica. Went to a service company, Dataco. I learned a lot there, but that was a downturn, and then unfortunately, a lot of people were made redundant, and then luckily I found a role in Premier Oil, where I am now today, the information and samples lead. So this is what I do now. It's mainly managing all the information that Premier produce and all the samples, from fluids to core to what goes on to the National Data Repository. That's my main role, but obviously this company needs other aspects of my role, which is the technical applications portfolio. Now, I basically manage the subsurface or the geopetrotechnical applications for Premier Oil for the UK business unit. I'm also responsible for any OGA regulatory work when it's like, say, the Asset Stewardship Survey that needs to be completed every year. And I also do the license applications and relinquishments and also consents. So it's very varied, and actually I never get bored. One day is different to the next day. So that's what I do now. Well, that's what I did at middle of March, and I'm still doing that because I talked about the trials of a data manager, and is it the same now? Is that the new norm? And in some ways it is the same, but in others it's not. So there are some differences. So I'm going to put the question to you guys. I've spent, I'm going to say, nearly 36 years in the oil industry or the energy industry, on various titles, but still managing data. And I have a joke here, and hopefully some people have seen the Monty Python movie, Life of Brian. If they haven't, I apologize. It's maybe a little pun. And there's a little section in there, a little skit about what have the Romans ever done for us, because they're trying to take the Romans out in the Judea Liberation Front. I might have got that one the wrong way around. Somebody will correct me. And they all start responding. Well, sanitation, roads, law, wine. And you start to realise that actually they've done a really lot of good work. And why would you want to overthrow the Romans? And then it got me thinking, you know, what have data managers ever done for us? Because a lot of the business go, you're the first one in line to be fired, or you're no longer required, because they can never figure out, well, what are you doing for us? And then I started to put some sort of words down about what data managers do. But I want to see what you come up with, and I'm going to do an experiment with Menti, and I'd like you to put some comments. It could be just one word, and put yourself in the shoes of the business, and then think, well, actually, no, they did that. And I'll give you an example. Is actually, hang on, they can load the seismic into our applications correctly, so it's in the right place in the world geodetically. So there's something like things like that, and I want to see if this works. Am I right, Fionnuala? Is it going to work? This? I'm going to send you all a link if I get this right. I'm going to go back to, you'll see all this. Go into the chat. Everybody should be able to see the chat. Are you going to put that in, or shall I do?
I can do it if you like. Yeah.
Could you do the link?
Yeah.
Whoops! You're seeing other things that you're not supposed to see. It's typical, isn't it? And I'm going to go to my Menti. And so this is live Menti here. It says, what has a data manager worked magic already done? Somebody's already put something in. And what I'm trying to find out is, you know, I value data management and data managers in my team, and when I've worked in different companies, and it's actually proving to the business that we are needed. And, you know, and especially in the climate we're in at the moment with the low oil price, yeah, save millions of pounds. You know, this is what I think sometimes we forget how much good we've done in the industry. And we need to show that, and we need to shout that to the businesses. Yeah. Looking good there, I like that. Increased safety, I like that bit of HSE in there as well, that's important. That's good.
We can't see the word cloud yet, you know, June.
Can you not? Oh, I'm doing such, I'm going to show you it now because I didn't want to give you any clues. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to share again, and I'm going to show this. So tell me, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Oh, Bill, oh, I think it's looking really good as well there. I like the fact that increased safety, because that gives me an idea of something that happened many years ago in my role in one of the other companies. They couldn't actually tie the seismic to the wells, and the lead geophysicist came to me and said, we're having an issue. Can you look at the wells and tell us why we cannot tie the seismic to them? And I had a look at the wells. It took me about a week of investigating the wells, and some of them were drilled in the 1960s. And I'd realised that at a certain point between the 60s and 70s, they'd stopped using the correct datum when they were doing the coordinate conversions. And they were using the incorrect one, so it was quite a few hundred meters out. So I had to correct all the well data in the surveys, and then they could tie the seismic. And then they actually were about to go and put the rig on site, and they had to move the rig. And that's the key word here. You're talking about, you know, safety. They could have drilled into a gas pocket, which has happened before. So yeah, that is really good. I think we could maybe, has everybody stopped now? I'm not sure. I might figure out how to stop it.
You can just leave it open if people want to keep sharing.
Might just leave it open if you want to just keep sharing, because that's really important. And once this is done, we'll add this to the slide pack where there's a gap, so you can all see what actually data managers have. And this is something everybody can use in their company to prove how valuable a data manager is. So we can talk about that later. I'm going to go and reshare the other screen now, back to the slide pack. If I can get back to it, guys. Oops. Oop, there we go. And I'm going to just go back to my, obviously my John Cleese moment, saying, what have the Romans ever done for us? What have data managers ever done to us? And it looks like we've done a lot. And I think we should all give ourselves a pat on the back. There you go. That was a little bit of an icebreaker. But let's go back to what it is, the trials of being a data manager in the new norm. So we're all look back to what it was like in pre-lockdown. There were rumblings in the beginning of March about this, the COVID-19, and lots of companies were going, well, how are we going to be prepared for the lockdown? And I know some companies were very comfortable with working from home procedures. We all had them in place. We had to go and check them. And we had to make sure people would have the right hardware and the right software, make sure they had the space to work and the health and well-being and access to everything. And everybody had this like dream, I think it was going to be like this. You're going to have a lovely workspace at home with a proper desk, twin monitors, nice potted plant, everything that you need to work. Obviously, reality is not quite like that. So I'm going to show you what reality is like. I actually took a photograph of my work area. This is where I'm working right now. This is my desk. I have one monitor. I'm lucky it's a 30-inch one, believe it or not, and it's actually a high definition one, so it's pretty good. And I literally have, I don't have air conditioning, so I have a little USB fan. Yes, I do have a very small laptop, but luckily, because our company implemented virtual working, I don't really worry about the fact I have a little small laptop with not much, it's not very sort of powerful, the processing and that lot, because I'm doing virtual working, going through what we call VM Horizon, or some people use Citrix or Global Protect. So I use that, and you know, I had to go and get a 4-port hub, connect it to my laptop, because otherwise I can't plug anything else in, like my headphones or my wireless mouse, or my TP link, which is to improve my internet connection. So we had all these things that we had to sort of think, and this is just me. I have 35 subsurface users, and they're all different, and they have all different setups. And I became an infrastructure person overnight for the first 4 weeks of post-lockdown. Most of my time was firefighting to make sure that all their issues were resolved. And they kept saying it's the systems that they had, but actually most of the time it turned out their internet wasn't powerful enough. And a lot of them had to end up calling their internet provider and improve it, or tell the kids not to get on the computer at the same time as they were working. And at the moment, my daughter is now doing an internet conference at the same time as I'm doing this to Aberdeenshire Council, because she's 17 and she's quite into the youth platform and stuff. So let's hope that works well. So we have lots of gadgets. So that was my reality. Is it the same working now in this virtual environment? Well, obviously we're all isolating at home unless it's essential that you work. When you're going offshore, the space is very different. But I think what it's done, and especially in our company, we've now embraced all the technology that I think we were frightened of beforehand. And in our company, in the company I work for, we were moving to Microsoft Teams. Now, there are other platforms available, but we were going to Microsoft Teams. But it was only a very small group that were using it, and that was IS, Information Services, which is I'm part of, and one asset. And it's forced the whole company to bring it forward and implement it for everybody in the company, because it's the best solution for all of us. And we can actually now share chat, email, workspaces, information, everything is all on one platform. And we wouldn't have done that for another year to 2 years along the line. It would have done it a gradual phasing. And so it's meant, as a data manager, my life is a lot easier because they're all keeping all the data now in one area, which is, we've been asking that for years, and it's now starting to actually happen. And I think that's really good. I'm embracing it. So we're getting a lot more structured and a lot more organized, and that's wonderful to see as well. And how long may it continue? I don't really want to work virtually for the rest of my life, but I don't mind working from home a couple of days a week and going into the office when we can. But I think this is the new norm. We can do this, and I think this has quite surprised quite a lot of the people who said they would never be able to work from home because nothing would work. And I think we've changed that view. But the key to all this is, you know, we have to get all this working and to do our work, we have to have some time management. And I think it's more important now that we're in a virtual world to make sure that we do actually parcel the work that we do and time it. Otherwise we won't get it done, because you're at home, you might just get distracted. And I think it's important that, and that's what I found as well, especially when you've got kids and pets. I mean, I have been known to my cat sleeping on my keyboard while I'm working. It's very important that you actually embrace time management. And if you're not quite sure about how to do time management, I was introduced to a new form of time management only just about last week, I think, Fanula. We were talking about it. It's the Pomodoro time management process, where you have the little tomato timer that everybody knows about. And what you do with that one is you put it on for 25 minutes and you concentrate on that piece of work. And when the timer rings, I mean, you can do it on the computer if you want with the timer, you don't like the tick. And then you take 3 to 5 minutes break away from it and then come back and do it again. And then you take a longer break after that. And apparently that really focuses your mind. It's worth a try. Anyway, how am I doing for time?
You're okay.
We're okay. Is everybody quiet? Any questions so far, or do you want to do the questions afterwards?
We'll do them after.
Okay. Someone asked me, even just a few days ago when I was doing the talk, I said, what are you going to talk about? Are you going to do any examples of how things have improved? And I went, yes, I am actually. It's just a little one. I'm managing a project, and it's obviously this is now virtual. Previously, we would have managed this project in the office. We'd have had meetings arranged to come drive to the meeting, have an hour and a half meeting to discuss stuff, send emails, all that stuff, and then try and all get together and discuss what was going and what was on schedule. We initially realized we couldn't do that because obviously we're all on lockdown. So we had one meeting and I said, can we do it on Teams? Because this is the tool that we all use in the company. And the external contractor agreed. And so they set up their own Teams space for us to access. And we can have our meetings there, and then they can put the schedule, the tracker, all the work that they're doing on there. And it actually has worked so much better than expected because it's all in one place. And I don't have to look for emails because they're all there. The conversations are all within the collaboration tools. So the emails are there, the tracker's there, and we can chat, we can video conference. And actually, not that I do it because that would be wrong. I could actually look at the work that the person's doing for us on a minute by minute basis as I need to, whether they've updated the work that they're doing. So I'm finding it's working really well, and we're totally on schedule. I don't feel like we're wasting as much time as we would do getting to meetings, you know, and also maybe it's even better for the environment. And actually at the end of it, I'm happy. I'm a happy customer. And I hopefully, I think they know that. Well, I hope they do. And it's going really well and it will be completed soon. So I just want to say I think this is the way I'd like to do my projects from now on, using the collaboration tools virtually, and long may it continue. So just a little bit of one. This might be a bit contentious, how to keep your job. And it doesn't just relate to data managers. And I know sometimes as data managers, we don't feel appreciated. And I've seen that over the years when I've been mentoring, and it's trying to make the data managers who've worked for me over the years, that sometimes you have to take that first step and build that relationship with the team that you need to do the work for. They're not going to come to you. They don't know you a lot of the times. You have to build those relationships. You have to take the first step and, you know, get to know your team. I mean, like I said, in Subsurface in Aberdeen, I think we've got about 35 staff. I have a relationship with every one of them. It's professional, obviously, but, you know, in the lockdown, we set up a WhatsApp group, you know, and it was more to do with just keeping up on how everybody was doing, you know, for them, it was health and well-being. But what I find about the WhatsApp group is occasionally I will monitor it and make some comments and saying, how's everybody doing? And sometimes you'll see somebody's a little bit upset about the fact either they can't find something or their system's not working the way they thought it was, or this application isn't, because they forget to actually email the help desk or putting a ticket, which is I'll talk about later. And I actually now can monitor on WhatsApp how they're feeling and actually almost like do an intervention. But tracking is key, and I think I've said this over the years in the companies I've worked for. Why couldn't the data managers have an audible tracking? We have a ticketing system in IS in Premier, and whatever system we use, and actually everybody has to submit their request, say whether they want a new monitor or a new piece of software. They also now have to put in a request for any data to be actually loaded or checked, or a child project to be created, or seismic to be loaded. They must now put it in, so we can actually track and justify our role. And that is, I think, one of the key things, the justifying your role as a data manager. If you can prove this is the work I've done over 12 months, not just by ad hoc, you put it into your little notebook. If you're a one data manager in a small company, you can do it through something like Microsoft Outlook and tasks, but it gives you that justification if somebody comes to you and says, well, what are you doing as a data manager, or what projects have you delivered? And then you can actually just present, well, I've done all this. I hope I'm not doing too much lecturing here, but I think the key again is again, I talk about building relationships and taking the first step, going finding out what projects are out there, how can you help. Keep a note of what you're doing. Just keep those connections open, and especially now in the virtual world, you have to keep yourself noticed. And even if you just sort of say hi to people, how are you doing? Is there anything I can help you with? And get to know them, talk, and then at the end you must deliver. So, and that's what I've learned over the years. That's all, you know. That's how how to keep your job. A little bit of statistics. Going back to the coronavirus lockdown, and we all know about it. And this is just related to UK, but it probably is the same around the world. How are we adapting in the lifestyle, and how are we managing our work-life balance? Apparently, 38% of us are now more likely to work more hours, working from home. And I hope nobody skipped their lunch today, because that's what 41% are doing, more than they used to. And I hope not many people are too stressed, because that's more than 29% on average are getting more stressed now, working from home. So it's important to maybe remember to look after yourself a little bit more. Oops. So my last one is some tips, and you're sure you've heard all this before. You know, remember, we're all talking, just keep talking, keep communicating. If somebody sends you a wee message, that's a very Scottish thing, a wee message, just say hi back, because when you're in an office environment and somebody sends you an email, you think to yourself, I might see them in the coffee area, or I'll just pop over to the desk later, so you don't respond. But that's okay, but you can't do that at home. So the best thing is to just respond quickly, saying, hi, I'll get back to you. And it's almost like you're just recognizing that they're actually trying to talk to you, and then they won't feel, because people do feel if you don't respond immediately, they feel a bit upset. You know, I always say stay professional about it as well. Again, I talk about time management, and I was talking to a colleague, I think it was yesterday, and they said they were at another presentation, and they said exactly the same thing I was going to do. Hydrate. We forget, working from home, to go, maybe it's not the same for a lot of people. I mean, at the moment, I'm in Starbucks, where I normally am, and I'm drinking a nice latte, but and I needed it. And then take some time out. I mean, my time out is, I might take half an hour and I'll go and play my Nintendo Switch. At my age, and I still play computer games. But it is important to take some time out and take a break. If you feel like everything's getting on top of you, and our HR department tell us, just take a break. Don't get worried. Don't get guilty about it. Just do it. Yeah. So anyway, there we go. My end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Jane.
Any questions?
It's not a question. Henri has made a comment in the chat about how fast employees have adopted conferences and found additional uses for them for the virtual drink with friends. Would you say, would you go so far as to put the social element into the data manager's competency spectrum, for example, more so in a remote setting than in an office setting?
Do you mean as in competencies?
Well, yeah, in that social connection is even more necessary remotely than it might be in the office.
Oh, I see what you mean. I think it's actually as important whether it's remote or not remote. I think the key is you have to build those relationships. And I think we forget to do that when we're in the office. And I see that, and I've been there, and I mean, over the years, and I've seen my teams come up to me and saying, why are they not coming to me with the work? And I said, you need to go to them. You need to build that relationship so they know they can trust you and you can work with them. And once you've built that relationship, then you will get the work that you want, and the trust and the acknowledgement that actually you can do that the job that they want you to do. And I think it's the same virtually as it is in the office. You just have to keep building those relationships.
Dan has asked, do you think COVID will finally kill off tape?
I hope so. I'll be straight about that. Tape, as in, you mean any kind of tape, or my mixed tape from Guardians of the Galaxy? I don't know. I mean, I've gone back to vinyl. I don't know what. I'm hoping. I think more than likely, no, it won't kill off tape. Let's be honest. But it's a dream.
I'm conscious that we are at 12:30 now, so anyone who does need to leave is free to do so. There are a couple of other questions in.
James said, how do you go about tracking? What tool is used? Can I answer that one?
Yeah.
Well, obviously there are different applications in that you can get. I mean, our company uses something called SysAid, and that's really an IT tool for tracking IT help desk jobs. But it can be used for any kind of job as long as you set it up the way it is, and we've got it set up so we've got information management and data management section of it, and it gets assigned to us. But you know, I talked about using a very small one called, Microsoft Outlook, your email account. If you go to Outlook, there's a task option in there that tracks and tells you when you finished it. You can put in when you finish it, when you start, and it'll flag up when you've not done it. Bye, Paul.
Henri asked a follow-up question about, are you planning to save tracking information as metadata differently?
Sorry?
You mentioned that it appeared to be more necessary to keep track of the request for data. Are you now planning to save this information as metadata differently?
Well, that is a good question. I don't think so, because I think the issue with metadata is we've never done enough and we need to do more. So that's my opinion. I think the more information we put in metadata, the better. So actually, maybe it will increase. Maybe Henri's right. Maybe we do need to increase the metadata. Is that what you mean, Henri?
Well, we see if he's...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there doesn't seem to be other questions being written in, and I'm conscious that we are only 1 minute beyond the window for the thing. I do invite you to join the SPDM Slack site to continue the conversation, and this recording will be published on the SPDM YouTube channel. But for now, thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Jane, for speaking today, and I will release you back to the rest of your afternoon.
Bye, everybody.